Imagine the heavy air of a grand party in the city's most exclusive mansion, with lights that dazzled the night sky and sighs of envy echoing through the crystal-clad room. There, Felix Andrade, the discreet janitor who, until a few years ago, had been the heir to a billion-dollar fortune, sauntered in. His modest employee uniform hid a glorious past. But that night, everyone would remember why he was seen there only as a servant hand, yet ready to turn the tables. Felix bent down to silently sweep up a spilled champagne, while his boss, socialite Helena Castaldi, walked through the room surrounded by gossip-hungry guests. She loved to humiliate anyone under her feet, and Felix was her favorite target. No one imagined, however, that this thin man, with his reserved gaze, carried within him the beast of an heir betrayed by unscrupulous partners. At that moment, Helena raised her voice amidst a chorus of laughter. "Look at our employee, all dressed up. He must think he was born to command." She mocked, her heels echoing on the marble floor. The general murmur turned into a sharp laugh. Felix had held back his blush for too many seconds. Now he took a deep breath, aware that the turning point was approaching. The following hours passed amid exquisite cocktails and whispered jokes in corners. Felix continued cleaning one movement at a time, a sigh held in his chest, until, in the adjoining room, the clink of a crystal glass clinking onto a tray sounded someone had called the name Andrade, and silence cut through the hubbub. A tall, impeccably dressed man stopped before him. The guest's eyes lit up as he recognized the janitor's surname, Felix Andrade. "Aren't you the only son of old Andrade, founder of Global Tech?" he murmured in surprise. The clue sounded like shattered glass. In a few seconds, the truth radiated. Throughout the room, the guests backed away, mouths agape. The former heir, supposedly bankrupt, relegated to domestic service, was now the center of attention. Did he deceive me? Did those partners betray the patriarch and leave him penniless? Whispers could be heard rising from mouth to mouth. Felix maintained a serene gaze, but his heart pounded. Revenge had finally arrived without him lifting a finger. As Helena watched, not fully understanding what was happening, Felix walked up to the makeshift stage. Eyes turned. Without fanfare, he took the microphone offered by one of the guests and spoke in a calm but firm voice. "Yes, I am the son of Antonio Andrade. I was betrayed, my partners robbed me, and for many years I was forced to work in a house that never accepted me. But I learned that the greatest wealth lies in dignity, and today I have regained both." The room fell silent. Tears welled up in the corners of previously cruel eyes. Felix continued, "I didn't come here to seek revenge, only to show that, even when humiliated, we are greater than our circumstances." Those words penetrated the barriers of indifference. Helena, pale, stared at her former employee. For the first time, she felt remorse. That audience, accustomed to his whims, now trembled before his courage. Felix smiled for a moment, raised the offered glass of water, and toasted to overcoming. Across the room, some guests wiped away tears. A janitor's loyalty had revealed the disregard of those who believed in their own power. In the minutes that followed, spontaneous applause broke the silence, not directed at the hostess, but at the simple man who had dared to claim his story. If this turn of events moved you, like, share, and tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced a moment when humility became power? Felix looked up at the mansion's mirrored ceiling, where before only crystal reflected the empty luxury. Now, each chandelier seemed to celebrate the seed of justice germinating in his heart. He remembered when, As a boy, he'd run through the corridors of his father's company, innocent of the lust for power his partners conspired to secure. Today, beneath his feet, there was no longer the dust of a corporate corridor, but the fertile soil of a social project born of humiliation and hope. As he adjusted the microphone for his second talk, he felt his heart pound, not with nervousness, but with conviction. A betrayed janitor had become a mentor to hundreds of lives, and every face in the audience had been redeemed, body and soul. Helena beside him wrote down every word, still confident in her leap, but now with her eyes welling with complicity. Resentment had given way to respect. The woman who had once spewed insults felt honored to share the stage with the man who had taught her the greatest lesson in humility. Felix began by recounting the brutal stock market crash that ruined his adoptive parents, leaving him with nothing but a name and a handful of empty excuses. His firm yet serene voice led the audience through his journey of self-denial. Every sweep I made in the rooms of this house, it was a step back to my dignity, he said. I learned that sometimes you have to clean the floor before you can find your own place on it. On the worn wooden chairs in the back, a woman emerged who had regained her mobility at the Prado Rehabilitation Center. Her hands rose in timid applause, and the entire audience followed suit, like a chord echoing through infinity. Felix smiled at the woman, feeling in her silent embrace the culmination of his own transformation. He was no longer a janitor, he was a catalyst for transformation. He invited Helena to the stage, and together they spoke about the Andrade Institute, where her father's legacy now lived on in social technology labs, creating solutions for community housing and affordable healthcare. Helena described how she had invested the first installment of her fortune in purchasing land for affordable housing, anticipating the evictions that combined greed and desperation. Felix added, "We also developed a mentoring app where young people from favelas access advice from professionals who previously would never have seen their potential." And he spoke of numbers: 2,000 families served in 6 months, a 40% drop in local unemployment rates, and a measurable increase in self-esteem among volunteers and beneficiaries. The audience listened in respectful silence, knowing that this narrative wasn't statistics, but blood and sweat translated into social effectiveness. Next, Felix shared a story of even greater change, that of the Prado limousine driver, who was reunited with his estranged daughter thanks to the Institute's foster care program. He paused, appearing human beneath his simple suit, seeing that man cry. As he hugged his daughter after 10 years was the moment I realized my work is worth more than any market action. Helena smiled proudly. And we're not stopping here. Next year, we'll expand to other capital cities: Salvador, Porto Alegre, Fortaleza, bringing the same proposal of dignity. Felix concluded with a sweet and urgent invitation. Each of you can be an agent of this change. Share our story, volunteer, donate your time or talent. The world needs cleaners, yes, but also visionaries who see potential where everything seems dirty. As the applause rose, Helena embraced Felix backstage, whispering, "Thank you for teaching me how to cleanse my own soul." And he responded, his voice choked with emotion, "Thank you for giving me back my name, Helena." The evening ended with a simple gathering. Guests sat on the lawn, sharing personal stories, exchanging contacts, and forming spontaneous work. Groups and under the lights of the mansion that now shone with a greater purpose. Felix felt for the first time without fear that humiliation had been the gateway to his redemption, and that every future challenge would end in the same triumph. of restored dignity.